All right, good morning. My voice still is not perfect, but it's getting better. I went to the doctor yesterday, had a breathing treatment. So I'm going to try to... I really should... This is such an important message. I really should just wait till my voice improves. Maybe I'll make another video then. Doesn't hurt to say it again and again and again. Because I was thinking about this learning Mishnayos yesterday. And I don't want to forget it. We, the Jewish people, have suffered throughout the generations by people who will take a small statement from our holy, whether it's our scriptures or oral traditions, take a small statement out of context and attack us with it. Who else is attacked like that? Our great President Donald J. Trump. The same people who are, I don't like that word anti-Semite because it racializes Jewish identity, and I believe Judaism is a religion and not a race, and I believe that this whole idea of Semitism and anti-Semitism are essentially a Nazi ideology, and really the truth is that someone like what's her name, Trump's daughter, Ivanka Trump, is a lot more Jewish than someone like Bernie Sanders, who doesn't even really believe in God. Certainly George Soros, all these people, they're not real Jews just because they were born Jewish. I know a lot of people disagree with me on that, but I can show you the where it says in the Shulchan Aruch and the Rambam and the Gemara, Mishnah, that a heretic is worse than an idolater, and an idolater, an apostate, they don't become a Gentile, but they lose part of their Jewishness. Many things I could explain for that. I'm not really here to talk so much to the Orthodox Jewish community. They know this already, of how bad the Democrats are and how they're our enemies. They're the enemies of not only of the Jewish people and not only of America, but of the whole world. We know from Dinesh D'Souza that the Nazis learned their ideology from the Democrats. But we see this. We see when they say things like that the president said that there were fine people on both sides, and they take that out of context. When if you listen to the whole press conference, he totally not only disassociates from, but totally puts down. I'm thinking the right word. I'm not feeling so well, so my brain isn't working so sharp right now. I hope you can hear me. He not only disavows, but he vilifies the neo-Nazis and the Ku Klux Klan and so forth. And he what do you call it? When he said that there were fine people on both sides, he wasn't talking about the Ku Klux Klan and the neo-Nazis and the skinheads. He was talking what was that whole protest originally about was on both sides there were good people who had a fair disagreement, and both sides had a fair issue to disagree on as to whether or not it's worthwhile to keep statues of certain people up or not. And there are many arguments on both sides, and not every argument that says to keep the statues up necessarily says it's a thing. It's for the purpose of honoring them, but rather for the purpose of remembering the past and not whitewashing our past. And so he's right. There were fine people on both sides of this not of not the violent, evil people who were also on both sides. There were evil people on both sides, and there were fine people on both sides. And yet, what do the Democrats do? Who they themselves are the Nazis, they themselves are the KKK. That's the history. If you study, who did Hillary Clinton learn from? From Senator Byrd, who was a leader of the KKK. You know, who's the front runner of the Democrats right now? Is Joe Biden, who supported segregation. You know, and why today? All of the things that the Democrats support are all rooted in that same ideology. Why do they support illegal immigration, specifically illegal immigration? Because they can mistreat people who are not really citizens. They can pay them less. They want to raise the minimum wage to make people lose their jobs, so they be dependent on welfare, so they can enslave them that way. And then they want to have, they're not exactly slaves, they're paying them something, but it's practically slave wages what they pay the illegal aliens to do work, because they don't have to pay them the minimum wage. And so they can attack people on both sides. It's all about control. And then why do they support abortion? The whole history of the Planned Parenthood was about killing black babies, was about eugenics. The abortion industry is essentially the lynching industry, except they're lynching the black babies in the womb. In New York City, a black fetus is more likely to be aborted than to be born. That's just a simple fact. And then people claim that I'm racist for pointing that out. I'm trying to save them. I'm trying to save the genocide against the black people that the Democrats are making, that Planned Parenthood is making. I'm trying to put an end to that. Millions of a Holocaust that happened in America thanks to the Democrats. And then they go and say what they say. But there are many examples of this, of where something that our great president said was taken out of context, and they will attack him. It's the same thing. That's what all of these bigots, Jew haters, I mean, essentially that's really why they hate him, because he has Jewish family. His daughter is Jewish, his son-in-law is Jewish, his grandchildren are Jewish. I think his daughters-in-law are also Jewish. So all of his, as far as I know, all of his daughters-in-law are Jewish. His grandchildren are Jewish. He is a patriarch of a big Jewish family, President Trump. And he's you know, just like kind of what we see, you know, how like Queen Esther, you know, and her children, her son Darius, who was Jewish, according to halacha. So we have really the most Jewish president, and then people say, well, he's not really pro-Jewish, he's only pro-Israel. And I agree with that sentiment when it's mentioned about other people, because, well, I wouldn't say I'm anti-Israel. I'm anti-Zionist. I think Israel is a great ally to the United States, and it's valuable for that. And it happens that, unfortunately, many Jewish people live there, and they're living in grave danger, and that's why I don't support the idea of Jewish people living in the Holy Land right now, because it's putting their lives in danger. But whatever we can do to lessen that danger, I support that. But I believe that the Israelis are putting the Jews in danger more. And as much as they claim the opposite, it's really by design. It's the same type of thing. Like you find, you know, the Satmar Rebbe compared it to an arsonist who wakes up his victims to look like a big hero. Look, arsonist said that he saved this family from dying in the fire. Meanwhile, he's the one who set the fire and destroyed all their property. That's who the Zionists are. They try to make themselves look like these big heroes, but they're the ones who started the fire. Why do we have all the anti-Semitism, quote unquote? Why do we have this idea of anti-Semitism? Why do we have this idea that Jews are a race? Where does that come from? It's a Zionist ideology and a Nazi ideology. But with that put aside, Jews and Muslims lived in peace for centuries. Why today they don't? It's because the Zionists. Even Rabbi Soloveitchik, Zeichat Tzaddik Livracha, and I'll say that Rabbi J.B. Soloveitchik was a holy man, and he said, even if I might, and I'm not a Zionist. I don't think he was really a Zionist. My Rosh Hashiva, who was a Talmud of his, said, "My Rebbe Rabbi Yoshe Ber is nishkavein kan Zioni." He said that in front of both the chief rabbis of Israel, Yonah Metzger and Shlomo Amar, and anyway, Rabbi Soloveitchik wrote in the 5 drushas that why is it that for years Jews didn't have the best relationship with the Christian community, although it wasn't as bad as a lot of people say. And they had a very good relationship with the Muslim community. Also, the truth is, on the other hand, it wasn't quite as good as a lot of people say. But both were, fair. Nowadays, our relationship with the Christian community is much better, and our relationship with the Muslim community is much worse. And Rabbi Soloveitchik, who was the leader of the Mizrahi movement in America, they call the religious Zionist movement in America, Rabbi Soloveitchik said that that's because of the state of Israel. So there you have it. Anyway, it's neither here nor there. The point, what I'm saying is that I believe that President Trump, who is pro-Israel, and I think it's good for an American president to be pro-Israel, is also pro-Jewish. It's not, his support of Israel is not anti-Jewish the way some of these others are. Meaning a lot of the Democrats support Israel because, specifically, they want to put all the eggs in one basket. I heard that about Truman, who was the one who was Miyasid, the Medina, the one who founded the state of Israel. He voted for that, Harry Truman, and he was a Democrat. And it was said that his cheshbon was, his calculation was that all the Jews, they would go to Israel and the Arabs would kill them all. And the truth is, it was a big disaster for the Jewish people. 1% of the Jews in Eretz Israel were killed in that war of independence that all the Zionists celebrate and say Hallel and Hayir for. When it was a Nakba, not for the Arabs, it was Nakba, it was a disaster for the Jews. How do you say Hallel for something like that? But with that being said, I don't think that is President Trump's approach. And not only I don't think it, I know it's not true. It'd be ridiculous to say that, because President Trump is a true Oyev Yisrael. He's a true lover of the Jewish people, and not only of Israel, the state of Israel, and he's not a religious zealot who, has some kind of eschatology about it. Not that I have any problem with the religious zealots who have eschatology. I'm fine with that as well, because I understand that they mean well, as much as a lot of people on the left like to But the fact of the matter is, and maybe some people who are around him who are very good people, like Michael Pence, like Pompeo, they might have the eschatology. But I don't have a problem with that. I can disagree with it and still respect them for that. But obviously someone who grew up in a relatively liberal church, listening to Norman Vincent Peale, he wasn't listening to some extreme eschatologist. He was listening to Norman Vincent Peale. That's where Donald Trump gets his approach to life from the Reverend Norman Vincent Peale. And so he's not some kind of extremist, But even if it is, I don't see a problem with it. But this is the essential thing that I want to bring out, is that the people who hate Donald Trump are antisemites. And they use the same tactics. And Donald Trump has a lot in common with the Jewish people and with the Jewish communities. One of the things that makes me most uncomfortable with the Hasidic community, but it's a practical, pragmatic thing, that they support Democrats because they live in New York and they have no choice. Because the Democrats would attack them if they didn't vote for them. They're a very visible voting bloc. And so you can see, if the whole Curious Joel would vote for a Republican for governor, Cuomo would take revenge on them, and he'd make a pogrom. I mean, he's an evil man. He wouldn't stop short to make a pogrom against us. It doesn't necessarily have to be a violent pogrom, but he could be supporting the Kalniki of our day, the Pablo Cristiani of our day, is Nick Moster. And Nick Moster, he's Yafed. He's trying to destroy our community. He's trying to make a pogrom. Trying to make the whole state Judenrein and what Judaism really is. Not just and don't think that he is okay with the modern Orthodox. He attacks all forms of Orthodoxy. And so the modern Orthodox really have to recognize that he is their enemy. The yeshiva world has woken up to see that, but even the way that they learn in the modern Orthodox yeshivas, it's not good enough for Nicky Muster. And the thing is that someone like Cuomo, if he saw that all the Erlich Yidden would vote against him, he would side with Muster. That's very scary. You have Cynthia Nixon. He's a big Hasidist of Nick Muster. So, and she was very close to becoming governor, Rahman al-Islam. And so these are the things that we have to be concerned about. But this is what it is. It's the same thing Donald Trump in the Yingyorin, he was supporting a lot of Democrats. Why? Because he was trying to accomplish things. In New York, he was trying to build, he was trying to be successful in his business. And unfortunately, in New York, that's the game you have to play, and that's the game the Hasidim have to play. And so he's one of us, Donald Trump. And that's why they hate him so much. Rabbi Miller said the same thing. That's why they hated Nixon. He said anything Nixon did, Johnson did 1,000,000 times worse. But Johnson could get away with it because he was a Democrat. This was already back then. There's nothing new under the sun. All right. So let's hope and pray that President Trump should win the next election. Now that he's starting his campaign, and Eisim Shulam Lachem, Shol Nesichim, Chlusim Melchus Kol Ilmim, Poitzes Tovid Avdim Echer Vrah. Nassim Amala as president, Donald J. Trump is Mishnehu, Vice President Michael Pence was called, so Herzl says Bristol, America. Amen.